It is Tuesday, May 21st, and the Splash Zone is back in your life. I'm Matt Modai, and I have 3 NBA bets for you guys to lock in for tomorrow's game. So I'm recording this on Tuesday, getting this out early for you guys, but the plays are for Wednesday's game, Mavericks versus Timberwolves, game 1. Of course, before we can go into those picks, we got to do a recap. I don't have anything to recap for Tuesday's game because I am recording this before Tuesday's game is being played. Hopefully, those plays go 3-0. I do have 3 plays in the Celtics game, but hopefully those went 3-0. And by the time you're watching this, we're coming off of an amazing heater from Tuesday's game. But I can recap the entire season, which has generally been pretty good, right? Like if you include the regular season, we're up 110 units. Everything is great. Admittedly, the playoffs have not been the best for me. Still up, which is good, right? We're always happy to be in the green. But we're up a little bit less than 2 units, so have not been able to replicate the regular season success in the playoffs. Every time it feels like we're about to go on a run, we have a day like Sunday where I go 1 of 4. I lose 3 of my 4 picks. Just a bad day overall. Sunday's game 7s. But again, hopefully Tuesday's plays go well. Hopefully tomorrow's plays go well. Very confident in 3 plays that I have for you guys. Would also appreciate it if you're new to my channel, if you could subscribe to my channel. And then for this specific video, like and comment. I do love reading through all of those. And then the last thing that I'll mention before I get into the bangers is that I do have a dub club where I send everything out. It's $5 a month, gets you everything that I am playing. Everything that you see for free on YouTube and on Twitter first goes out on Dub Club, with basically my logic being sometimes the odds change. Sometimes people get frustrated at getting different odds. So my Dub Club was a way to combat that. As soon as I decide what a play is, the very first thing I do is send it out to my Dub Club. So if you're interested, check that out. If not, you can get everything for free on YouTube and on Twitter. No problems there. Let's get into the bangers. So all 3 of these plays obviously are going to be in the Mavericks versus Timberwolves. The first play that we have is just going to be on the main line. I'm taking the Mavericks spread. I'm taking the Mavericks spread plus 4.5, minus 110 odds at BetMGM. The reason why I fumbled over my words and said Celtics is because it's the same system play that we went with the Celtics in game 1. Now, I don't know if that bet ended up hitting or not. Hopefully it did. But the system play here is that if there's a team coming off of a game 7 and the other team has more rest, you're going to want to fade the team coming off of a game 7, which I know that sounds like a mouthful, but the logic is the Timberwolves just came off of a grueling 7-game series against the Nuggets. Now, I say grueling. Honestly, not a lot of the games actually were that close, but it's still 7 games, and they still had to come back from being down 3-2, and it was still the defending champs. I'm still going to say that was a grueling series. Now, the Mavericks series was grueling as well, but it only went 6 games, and their series ended on Saturday, whereas the Timberwolves series ended on Sunday. So it's essentially a system play, fading the team coming off of a game 7. Now, it's a little bit different than the Pacers one, I will admit, because the Timberwolves are going to have 1 extra day of rest, right? Like they played on Sunday. The Pacers played Tuesday, so only 1 day of rest, whereas the Timberwolves do have an extra day of rest. But I do think that the system play still stands here, and I do think that this is a prime letdown spot for the Timberwolves. Now, the system of fading the teams coming off of a game 7, that's 1-0 heading into Tuesday's game so far in these playoffs, with the Cavaliers coming off of a game 7 against the Magic, and then they got spanked by the Celtics in game 1. Last year's playoffs, it went 3-0. And now if you're interested in the data, I went through it in the Celtics video. Basically, 3 times last year, a team coming off of a game 7, none of them covered the spread in game 1. So it's 3-0 fading those teams. And again, I do think that this is a prime letdown spot for the Timberwolves. Now, I understand a lot of what I'm going to say is not what you usually see on my YouTube channel. Normally, I try to be as data-driven as possible. A lot of this is conjecture, body language doctor, whatever you want to call, but it's feeding into the system play. Now, the Timberwolves, I do believe that they're going to win the series, right? That's my prediction. That's not a hot take. They're the favorite. But I also do expect them to come out slow and clunky in game 1 specifically. I mentioned they're coming off of a 7-game series. They're coming off of an emotional victory against the Nuggets, the team that bounced them in the playoffs last year, the defending champs, and they had to come down from 2-3, win 2 straight games. Granted, one of them was a blowout, but game 7 was not a blowout. They had to come down from 20 to win that game in game 7. So with all that in mind, I think it's only natural to expect some sort of letdown for the Timberwolves. Like just start a little bit slow. If you wanted to take the Mavericks first quarter or first half spread, thinking that the Timberwolves get it together in the second half, I wouldn't hate that. But I do think that it's only natural to expect some sort of letdown, again, some letdown spot for the Timberwolves. And I do think that there are some advantages that the Mavericks can exploit against the Timberwolves, right? You also get a possibility of a healthier Luka who looks better than he did against the Thunder. He looked like he was starting to come out of that at the end of the Thunder series. In the one-on-one matchups that Luka and Kyrie have, they can break down any one-on-one defense, and that's generally how the Timberwolves like to play. Now, the Timberwolves defense is phenomenal, and they did aggressively double Jokic. That was after 5 games of the series. They didn't start doing that until game 6, when literally every time Jokic touched the ball, they doubled him. I don't think they're going to start out doing that against the Mavericks. I don't think that they're going to do that against Luka and Kyrie. So I do think that Luka and Kyrie, it's going to be a big series for them, and I expect them both to have big performances. So that's our first play, just taking the Mavericks plus 4.5. Second play, same game, Kyrie Irving over 21.5 points, minus 105 odds at BetMGM. I mentioned I think it's going to be a big game, a big series for Luka and Kyrie. Putting my money where my mouth is, specifically with Kyrie. Now, I understand it feels disgusting backing Kyrie Irving after he basically didn't even try to score against the Thunder. Completely different series against the Thunder, and he still at least did go over this number in 2 games. 21.5 points is such a low number for Kyrie Irving. Such a low number for Kyrie Irving in the playoffs specifically. Now, I get it. He didn't score at all, basically, in the Thunder series. He went over this number in 2 games. Both those games he went over. He scored exactly 22, so it wasn't like he blew it out of the water. In 3 games of that series, he scored 9, and 12 points. And then another game, he only scored 20. So I get that this is scary. That's also the way the Thunder played him, which I do not expect to be the way that the Timberwolves play him, right? I mentioned the Thunder, they will aggressively send traps. They will aggressively send double teams as part of their defense. I'm going to mention this in more detail with my next player prop because it is in line with that. But what that does do is it leaves a lot of open shooters for the Thunder. It's why they gave up the most corner three-pointers in the NBA over the regular season. It's why generally assists are a good play for high-usage players against the Thunder. 4 of the games in the series against the Thunder, Kyrie Irving had 13, 16, and 20 potential assists. That's a really, really high number for Kyrie Irving. He never had more than 10 potential assists against the Clippers. Completely different series against the Timberwolves. They're going to trust their one-on-one defense. They're going to trust their rim protection with Rudy Gobert. If Kyrie Irving is able to break down his man off the dribble, he goes into the paint. Congratulations. You're going into Rudy Gobert, one of the best paint defenders, rim defenders in the entire NBA. So they're going to play their guys straight up, rely on their one-to-one defense, and then their help if their one-to-one defense gets broken down. Yes, in the very, very rare case of Nikola Jokic, they did double him. Again, they waited 5 games to do that. And Jokic is just different than Kyrie Irving and Luka. And if they do decide to employ that strategy, it's going to be against Luka. It's not going to be against Kyrie. So my opinion here is that if the Mavericks want to have a chance to win this series, they're going to need to have a massive Kyrie Irving series. They're going to need him to be more aggressive. I think he will, especially I think he will in game 1. Now, this isn't perfect going back to the regular season, but the one game that him and Luka, meaning Kyrie, played against the Timberwolves, he scored 35 points. He played the Timberwolves. He played them once last year. Again, that's Kyrie Irving. He scored 36 points. Now, last year is a totally different situation, but this year he scored 35 points. There are reasons to believe in Kyrie Irving in this game. I get that he burned basically everybody who took his points, at least in the Thunder series, but it's a totally new series, totally different matchup. I like riding with him. Next up, third and final pick of the video, Derrick Jones Jr. under 9.5 points, minus 130 odds at FanDuel. Now, I get it's a little bit risky having 2 player props on the same team. It's a little bit risky fading Derrick Jones Jr. while also taking the Mavericks. But the reality is, while I do think this is a Kyrie Irving series, I absolutely do not think it is a Derrick Jones Jr. series at all. I think it's a great spot to fade him in the series. I also think it's a great spot specifically to fade him in game 1. For starters, there's just some natural regression coming for Derrick Jones Jr. He absolutely blew up, was amazing. The last 3 games of the Thunder series, he scored 17, 19, 22 points. Clear outliers for him. The last 2 games of that series, he shot 3 of 5 and 4 of 6 from deep. Also, clearly an outlier shooting performance for him. Regression is definitely going to come for Derrick Jones Jr. Now, I mean regression just in general from a shooting perspective, and regression in that this is a much, much more difficult matchup for Derrick Jones Jr. Sorry, it's a tongue twister for me to say that. Derrick Jones Jr. against the Timberwolves than it was against the Thunder. Part of the reason why he was so good against the Thunder is the Thunder style of defense that I already mentioned, right? They're going to send double teams, they're going to trap, they're going to leave guys open on the corner. Guys like Derrick Jones Jr. That's why the Thunder was such a good catch and shoot 3-point matchup in the regular season. That's why they gave up so many corner 3-pointers. It's all about their style of defense. That's not how the Wolves play defense. They stick to their shooters, right? They didn't give Michael Porter Jr. anything. Now, Derrick Jones Jr. is not Michael Porter Jr., but they don't give up anything behind the 3-point line. And they also don't give up anything at the rim because that's where Rudy Gobert is. So if you're telling me that Derrick Jones Jr., the two ways he scores, which is a two way he scores against the Thunder, was from the 3-point line and was at the rim, well, that's not going to be the case. Those shots, those options aren't going to be available against the Timberwolves. Now, I know we did go over this in 2 of the 3 games in the regular season, but in the playoffs, I like fading him in this one. Again, it's just a perfect opportunity to fade recent results and to back a much better defense and a much different matchup, fading Derrick Jones Jr. And that's all we got. 3 bangers for the Mavericks versus Timberwolves game for you guys to lock in. Remember to like the video, comment, subscribe, check out the Dub Club if you're interested. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.